good morning. Welcome to another episode of Garden to Table with Rose, and I am Rose. So I am here for, I guess now it's going to be an August tour. I am gardening in Zone 6A, Kalamazoo, Michigan, and I had planned to do this front garden tour towards the end of July, but it went into the 90s the last couple of weeks of July, and it was like 100% humidity, or at least it felt like it. And so I could not get out here early enough to do a tour, because even at 7 a.m. All the bugs would be out and all the stinging things. So I have to avoid certain areas during certain times of the day. Now I wanted to come out here earlier today. It's like about 9:20, 9:30, but I forgot about it. I wish I had gotten out earlier, because my street gets noisy. It gets louder as the morning goes on, and so I like to try to do it very early when everybody's still in the bed, so that the video is pretty quiet in terms of background noise. Like, you'll have to bear with me, because if I wait too much longer, some things will be just done. A lot of things are done, and a lot of things I have cut back just because it's time. So I'm gonna pan. I'm standing in the middle of my front yard, really. And I'm just going to pan around so you can see what's going on from the inner circle. See, even you can hear my dogs howling in the background. And they are howling because they're looking out the window, and the neighbor's dogs across the street are out in the front yard. And whenever they see dogs, they start howling. That's just their thing. So, yeah. So that's what's going on here in the inner circle. It's beautiful. Look how full it is. That Rose of Sharon tree. See if I can zoom in. That Rose of Sharon tree is in full bloom. I also want to catch that, because those blooms won't last for much longer, maybe a week. But this year, it's a nice deep rose pink color. And like I said, every year it's been a different color since it started blooming. So this year it's a deep pink. It was labeled as a red Rose of Sharon, so I don't know if it'll be a different color next year, or if that's the final deal on it. We'll have to see. Well, where do I start? I guess I'll start at the inside, since I am already on the inside, and then I'll go to the outside. As you can see, my window boxes are still doing great. Can I zoom in? I'll zoom out. They're still doing great. Those are, I believe, begonias. Don't quote me on that though. But I got all these trays of annuals that were marked down significantly when I planted those up, which I talked about in the last video. And so those things actually have survived in those window boxes and done very well. And so have the ferns. This little this little flower that's trailing on the sides, I don't know the name of that. I got it from the nursery, but whatever it is, it's done well, because I started off with that on the porch in pots, and then when I couldn't get anything to grow on the porch in the pots, I removed those and just put them in the window boxes, and they seem to like it there. Now I will say the one on the left gets part sun, just the way it works out. This one is like kind of full shade. So yeah. Now here, this Limelight, this is an old school PG hydrangea. I called it Limelight, but it's an old school PG hydrangea. It has only one bloom on it this year. Those do bloom on new woods, and I really, the only thing I've done with that over the couple of years that it's been there is try to limit up into a tree farm, because I want it to be a tree farm. And that little pot down there is where I got that new flower I posted about last video. I can't even remember the name of it. But it's a very tropical plant that I will have to take in the winter, but it still seems to be surviving and doing well. My little boxwoods here, I don't know which variety. I don't know if those are Sprinter. They might be Proven Winner Sprinter boxwoods or something, but they are getting bigger, which is nice, because I want that to be a little bit of a hedge. And then I do have mums that come back every year. Most of my mums come back every year, which was shocking to me. But I planted some along this little pathway here. So there are some that are coming up there, and then there are a couple on the other side of this pathway. Now right here, let me try to speed it up. Let me try to talk a little bit faster so that This doesn't go on forever. Right here, this is looking a bit fuller, as you can see. I put a bunch of annuals in here because that's what I do until my perennials get big enough where I don't need the annuals. So that coneflower, the white one, is a perennial, and it has a little bit of size, but it's still pretty small. I got some wild geraniums in here that those are blooming, but the others, and then that one's blooming, but I just put some new ones in that are not blooming yet. So this is filled with those annuals again, those begonias or whatever they were. And then I got some of this stuff, not celosia, I can't think of the name of this, but this is an annual, this is a burgundy one. And I usually just buy trays of that. It comes in a bunch of different colors, and if I remember it, I'll put the name up there. It comes in a bunch of different colors. It's an annual here, but I just usually buy a tray of that because it's pretty inexpensive here. And then there's some coral bells thrown in there. There's some cosmos that obviously reseeded from last year because I didn't plant them. All of my Helen von Stein, I can't think of the formal name. She is doing great. She's looking fantastic. I started off with maybe 2 of these, and I've divided them multiple times and put them in different spots. So there's some there, there's some there, there's some in the back, there's some over there, there's some over there. It's like I'm spreading it all around, but it tends to do well in our climate, and it just multiplies like crazy. So that does bloom, that plant, whatever the name is. It sends up these tall purple stalks. Actually, here's a little baby one here. I don't know if you can see that. It's not the prettiest flower stalk. I usually kind of cut those down. The pollinators like them, so I leave them until they really start looking kind of raggedy, and then I cut it off. Then over here, what else do I have? One of these, I don't know if it's this one. That might be a Weigela, but one of these is probably a Weigela, and one of these is a lilac. So the lilac could be that one, but neither have blooms yet. I've moved them around a bit, and so they are growing, so I'm very happy about that. And then way in the back over there, you can see it. I don't even know, I can't, let me see if I can get closer. Way in the back over here, I don't think I've ever really pointed these out because they were so small, but they've probably put on a little bit of size. These are variegated hydrangeas, so I have yet to see them bloom, but they are at least growing. I thought they were dead. I've moved them around because they didn't like where I put them originally. But the beauty about these obviously is that the leaves are variegated. As you can see, there's like a white border on them, so I'm very happy about that. This whole bed I have here, this tiny raised bed, is full of celosia, and it's just now starting to put on the little flower heads, if you can see it. So it's all different colors. It's a mix, and I got plugs for this. And I really, you don't use any of the greenery. You just use the little fluffy heads. And I like to use these not only in flower bouquets, but mainly in dry flower arrangements. It dries really well and keeps a vibrant color. And so I want to be able this fall to actually make a dried flower wreath or 2. I really like having those in the house in the cold months, and so I'm gonna be using most of that for that purpose. And then over here, what else do we have? There's lots of coral bells in there. I did plant a lot of those because I was able to get them inexpensively as bare roots. They're, you know, and they're just now they've been coming back each year. This is maybe the 3rd year. And so they're just now kind of putting on some size, and so it's nice having those in there because it adds a little bit of different texture and color. Like this coral bell here is like a burgundy. I have green ones, you know, all colors. And so what else? All the crocosmia is done. There was a row of it blooming over there. There's tons of it here. You can see where those tall, like grass-like spikes, that's all the celosia that's bloomed out. So when fall comes, I will cut it back. It's a perennial, it will come back, but the pollinators loved it. The hummingbirds came back for it. It was just really, really nice. And in the back there is a pink coneflower that's getting pretty tall, but you can barely see it because the hydrangea hedge I have here. This is a row of hydrangeas. There are 2 ruby slippers here, which are oak leaves, and as you can see, the panicles are this beautiful, they turn this beautiful dark pink at some point. You see that? that is just a nice different color. Most of the panicles, you know, are kind of white or pinkish white, but those get a very dark pink, and then the leaves turn vibrant red in the fall. And so with oak leaves, you can't prune those really. You have to just let them go because they bloom on old wood. And so those were very tiny when I put them in, and I just keep letting them go. This one is a moon rock hydrangea, and I have two of those. There's that one, and then there's one in the front of the house. This I think it's from Blooming Easy or something like that is the name of the company. But I do love it because the stems are so tall and upright, and I like that the stems are brown, kind of like a tree branch. I don't know if you can see that, but the stems are like brown. Which is unique because most of my other hydrangeas, the stems might turn brown as they get older, but usually they're kind of green. They're just not that shade of brown. And so these have big panicle heads, and they're very upright. They don't flop or anything like that, which is really nice. And then in here there are pufferfish hydrangeas. I have two of those. And the pufferfish, let me see if I can find a bloom that shows you how distinct it is. If you see here, the panicle has, I don't even know if you can see it very well on the camera, but it has a little tuft that grows out the top. You see that? So it's like a round mop head, I guess you could call it. And then it'll get a little spike that grows up out the top. And I think it's just a very unique hydrangea. So there are two pufferfish in there, and then that is an old school Annabelle that's very droopy. She always droops. She's propped up and she still droops, but that's okay because she has big beautiful blooms. I mean, and usually they come in, they seem very, very white, but what I'm seeing here is green, a very limey green, which I'm liking that too. So I don't know if that's once they get older. I don't know if those are new blooms, old blooms, or whatever. And I think those are older ones, so maybe they come in white like this one and turn to this dark green, which I don't recall seeing that before. I just remember them going from white to papery looking, you know, kind of drying out. So that's what's going on with that. My peach trees here in this back row, I didn't get any peaches. I had this leaf curl disease, fungal disease, that started with the peach trees. It made its way to the backyard and hit some of my trees back there. So I've been treating all year. Fruit is a no-go on the trees this year. This one in the middle, the Saturn peach tree, did set a bunch of peaches, but I had to throw them all out because they were malformed. They just didn't look right. It wasn't a good year for me for my fruit trees, but that's okay because with treatment they're bouncing back, and they will, I think, be great come next season. Oh, look how beautiful that 9-bark looks in there. That's a I don't know the brand, but it's a dark red colored 9-bark, and I mean that color is vibrant and it looks so nice against all that green. You got to break up all the green. All right, my cotton candy maple tree, which you know I love and always point out, is doing great. This is another, I think that might be another moon rock hydrangea there. So maybe I have three. I think that's another moon rock, and I've limbed it up to tree form, and it only has, I think, two stalks, main stalks. But that one is getting very tall. Things here are done blooming. There's some mini roses here. There's salvias that I've cut back. This baptisia is done. There's a little conifer in there that's being swallowed by the baptisia, but my goal is once it gets tall, it is a conifer tree. It'll be standing up through the baptisia. My cherry blossom tree is so beautiful. I kind of trimmed the top a little bit to make it look a little bit more like a oval, kind of make it look symmetrical. I think it's great. I won't be able to do too much more trimming of the top because I can't reach it anymore. Yeah, it's getting pretty tall now, but it's looking great. My two persimmon trees, which did some weird dive back to the ground last year, and then they sprung up again, but now they're on like these tall, stalky looking, this stalk looking trunk like a lollipop, but they still haven't given me any fruit, so that's what's happening with that. This little conifer that I love, this Bosnian pine, is getting bigger finally. It was just such a baby when I planted it, and I got a second one on the other side. And then I do have annuals, as I mentioned before, sprinkled through here. This one I really like. It's a good filler for flower bouquets. It's called Snow on the Mountain, Euphorbia, I believe. So it easily reseeds too. If you just leave it and let it go to seed, you can sprinkle it wherever you want and it'll come up the next year. So I got plenty of that going on. And then what else do I have to report in the front? Let's see, over here. These are little lime hydrangeas that I have tried to, I am trying to limb up into some kind of tree form. Basically, I have three main branches on those two. There's one on each side, and I just keep limbing it up as it gets taller. My beauty berries, as I said, have returned, and they actually have their little buds on them. So you see those little white flowers that the bees are swarming about. They're opening up, and then at some point they turn purple. After the flowering is done, it sets some berries and they turn purple, and it's beautiful. So over here I had added some new things in the spring that are dormant now because they were spring things, Brunera, but they had blue blooms, and I mean blue, not purple, blue. And so I'm very excited about having those in the garden because it's very hard to find a blue flower. So one was Brunera, and then there was another type of flower. I can't think of the name of it, but I got more salvias and coral bells, purple ones on this side. This side mimics the other side. I do have a another clematis that I put in just I don't know if it was in the spring or the fall. It might have been the fall. It's a proven winners, and it has like pink and purple flowers, but it's just getting going. So it'll be another year or two before it really starts getting up this arbor and putting on a show. This beauty berry over here is a lot bigger than the other one, but this is all a repeat. And then if we go over here, I have a hydrangea. I'm not sure if that's called something punch. It's a proven winners, that's all I know. But it has been pretty small. It's the first time I've seen it this size, but it's looking great. I did limb up my red bud because I want it to be taller so that these things can kind of be under it. So I did prop up a limb, tie it up, staked it up, and I'm hoping that that becomes the central leader here as we go on into next year. But I also have some Hyssop anise or something like that here that I've cut down that the pollinators love. I'm probably going to pull that out just because I want to give that hydrangea all the room it needs to grow. And this stuff I like grow from seed. It's really easy to grow, so I don't really need that there. And all this bugleweed has been here since I started this front garden. I don't know if you can see it. It's called a juga or bugleweed. It's like a ground cover, but it has multi-covered leaves. I'm gonna dig all that out in the fall and move it over to that new section on the other side of the driveway to use as a ground cover because I'm having too many weeds coming up over there. That always happens when I dig up a new garden section, especially if it's been grass. It's just 3 years of constantly trying to fight the weeds. So the ground cover that I chose, that I'm using now, I'm not that happy with, because although it's beautiful, I mean, it's a mixture of ground covers. I got like Creeping Thyme and some other ones that are similar. They were all in the same ground cover section at my nursery. It does allow weeds to grow in that it's hard to get out because it's so densely packed. One would think weeds wouldn't be able to grow, but they do, particularly weeds that look like it. So like clover and stuff like that. I got this weird, I don't know if it's a clover. I call it a clover because it looks like it. This stuff. And I don't know the official name, but I call it some type of clover. But what it does is it forms these long strands. So it grows up and then sends out these long strands. So I'm constantly pulling that out. So I'm not really that happy with the creeping ground cover. These and I don't know if I'll dig those out at some point. If I had my druthers, I actually probably would fill all that in with some kind of bugleweed, which is a lot, the juga, which is a lot easier to weed around and stuff like that. Or maybe even some kind of low growing sedum something else other than this stuff. But that's what I got in several spots. So right now that's just gonna have to stay. What else I got going on over here? Gladiolas. Now a lot of them I've cut because, you know, once they bloom out, I cut the flower stalk off and I leave the leaves. And a lot of these I've returned from last year. Now these are new ones, this section, because I remember planting this. But on the other side of the driveway, all of those were from last year. I didn't plant any new ones over there. And they all literally returned and bloomed again, which is not supposed to happen in my zone. So I was very excited about that because I like to use those as cut flowers. Yeah, they make a pretty good cut flower. And if I can get them to perennialize, even better. So over here in this section, let me back up a little bit. Oh, now I'm zooming in. Let me back up. So I have another hedge here of hydrangeas. If you can't tell, I love hydrangeas. But these, okay, so the ends are capped with these pinky winkies, which I love. Again, they're tall and upright and they just stay standing up. And the thing about the pinky winky is it has a variegated panicle. So like the bottom is usually stays dark pink and then it gets lighter as it goes up. So that's a unique look that the other ones don't quite look that way. So I like that. And in between are two oak leaves that are beautiful. They're both by proven winners, and I'm trying to think. They're Gatsby's. So one's Gatsby Star, and the other one I think is Gatsby Moon. And I know that the way I tell them apart is the Gatsby Star actually has the little flowers look like stars. I mean, so, but they're getting size. They don't get a lot of blooms yet because they're just now kind of getting big. These things I think get 6 to 8 feet. But they are beautiful. I love them. And in between them, I have one of my Mary statues. And then I have here these 3 wee white hydrangeas that I've mentioned before. I'm really liking this size hydrangea. It's doing a little browning. I don't like that, but it has been 90 degrees every day. That one's still on the small side. But what I'm thinking I'm going to do is get 2 more wee whites because I like planting things in odd numbers if I'm going to plant en masse. And these are all annuals in here. All these white begonias or whatever they were. And I also planted some zinnias from seed, some little white ones that I think stay pretty short. You can see one there. It is pretty. Look at that. Yeah, that's a zinnia, but that's an annual, so that's going to come out. So the only thing that's perennial in here is maybe the gladiolas if they come back. And then I have the candy tuft that I love. I've planted it in different spots along the front, which gets beautiful white blooms. And then I have some little what do you call them, boxwoods. So I bought several of those. They were in an inexpensive variety from like Home Depot, and I have like them going down this whole row. So when they get big, I'm gonna have them, you know, keep them trimmed up to a ball shape. So my idea now is these balls. I know that sounds strange, but that's my idea here. These balls of different shrubs, and the backdrop is the tall hydrangeas, right? And then these 2 tall Christmas tree arborvitaes, which are also proven winners, but they stay this beautiful gold. There's one there, and there's one there that's a little bit hidden, but there is one in there. So my idea is these little nicely shaped symmetrical balls. So little balls of the boxwoods, and then a series of the little balls of the wee white hydrangeas, and then the 2 trees that are at the edges, which are this nice golden color, which will contrast, and then the big hydrangeas doing their thing and flowering. So that's where I'm going with this section. As I told you, my goal is to transform almost all of my gardens into perennial spaces because it's getting harder for me the older I get to maintain all of this, and I maintain all of this by myself, period. No help at all. And so it is a lot of work. So, and here is the other moonrock hydrangea. This is my beautiful 9-bark I've pointed out before, and it's just so big now. My apple trees, I do have apples on the apple trees, a few. The apple trees did not get the leaf curl, thank God. So I may get some apples. We'll see. This section, I am still fighting onions that keep sprouting up. As I told you, I think I'm going to be fighting onions for 3 years. I mean, so I'm still fighting them. I come out every couple of days and pull up the baby onions. And there is an onion plant, 2 of them, that I need to dig out because they've turned into little shrubs, but I keep cutting them down so they don't flower. I haven't dug them out yet because this side is full of pollinators and I'm not going to get stung messing around trying to dig anything out. So I put this big pot on top of one so it can't get any light, so it won't be flowering. And then this one, I keep cutting down. There's a little onion one right there. And again, I think these were chives flowering, well, just regular chives that I planted and then allowed to flower because I thought they'd be pretty in the landscape and the seeds were cheap. And they were pretty indeed, but I did not know you cannot let them go to seed ever. So I will never plant eating chives and let them flower and go to seed again. I can tell you that. Now I'm not going to go in this section because there are, if I don't know if you can see it, but there are like bees and pollinators everywhere over there. But there's a lot of coneflower. There's some more of these lilies that just started blooming again. I've been cutting them down after they bloom out. I've been cutting the stalks down, and then in the fall I'm moving all those white lilies out of here and they are going in the front somewhere because this section is just getting too crowded for my taste. My poor half-dead tree, I still leave it there because I still hope that it will bounce back. maybe in the spring it'll come back. Like the bottom is still alive. Oh, the bottom is still alive. It's the top that is burnt to a crisp. So we'll see what happens. These beautiful purple petunias, I put on a second flush. I mean, they had flushed out so beautifully in early spring. And there's a dragonfly on it. They had flushed out so beautifully in early spring, and I had put them in a video of one of the tours I did, and then literally the next day some animal came and ate all the tops of the flowers off. I don't know if it was a deer or a bunny or what, but it was something else. All right, so let me go around this side. Here I still get my little potted trees that I've always had. This one, it's gonna need a trim, but I'm waiting until fall, and then I want to use that greenery I trim off of that for my dry flower wreaths. I think that would look really pretty. But everything else is the same. I keep deadheading these little red flowers. I can't think of the name of them. Geraniums. I keep deadheading those, and then they keep pushing out new stalks, so I'm very happy about that. The Dusty Miller did not like it in these pots. It just got leggy. I think you know, the geraniums just took over. So, but that Dusty Miller I'm going to put in the ground in the fall because I found that it does survive here over winter, which is not supposed to, but it does. And the pots are the same thing. I got these annuals, these begonias or whatever they are. Those are in here, and then these other little annuals that I got a tray of, and they seem to be doing pretty well. Even these shrubs here are wanting to put out a second flush of pink blooms, but once fall rolls around, what I'm going to do is probably cut these back half size because they're big now. I mean, you probably can't tell from the video, but I would say each one of those is like 4 feet wide, 4, 5. I mean, they're just big. So I used to cut them back all the way to the ground and then just let them grow because I never liked them before. I just they grew on me. Now I love them. Spirea is what they are. But they were here when I bought the house 20 years ago. So I would cut them all the way down to the ground because that was before I started gardening, and they would make me so mad because they bloom and all these bees would be here and wasps, and I couldn't even hardly get in and out my front door. So I would be so mad. But now they've grown on me. I do love them. So I'm probably going to cut those back halfway. And then over here, let's see. I've been moving lilies out, as I said, to make room for these things that are getting bigger, like these 9-barks. There is a green 9-bark here that's getting bigger as well now that it has room. And then what else is over here? This liatris in different spots is kind of doing its thing. The bees love it. I mean, the pollinators. I shouldn't just say bees because I'm telling you, I got all kinds of wasps and hornets. I've had to pull out some things because I've been like chased out of the yard by these stinging things, not bees. I know the difference between a bee and something that's gonna sting me. So there's like hornets, yellow jackets, all kinds of stingy things in this garden. And as you can see, they're swarming in this area. And they love that liatris stuff for sure. But what else? I got feverfew over here that comes back every year. And in this section, if you can recall from earlier videos, this is where I have a lot of spring bulbs planted. So it may look bare, like there's bare spots, but there are lots of like daffodils and hyacinths in this area, crocuses. And so I'm not going to put anything else in this area because there's already just a lot of stuff there. Actually, I'm removing stuff. The coneflowers are doing good. The pollinators love the coneflowers. But here you can see this tree has some apples on it. So like I said, it's always a matter of hopefully I can get to the apples before the bugs do and all of that, because I don't want to spray up here unless I absolutely have to, because look at all these pollinators. I don't want to spray any kind of, you know, stuff on the trees because it's probably gonna injure some of the pollinators, and they're all over everything. So down this lane is mums, cutting mums, and so I will be waiting for those to mature for, oh my gosh, look at this one. They're all over this one. You can even just hear the buzzing if you get close to it. There's so many. So let me step back. I'm not trying to get stung. But anyway, those are all cutting mums. So they usually come in the fall, which is great. Just showing you this side from this angle. Don't worry, I will edit this video down. If I put these videos up the way I record them, it'd be like 2 hours of me talking. There's some of the celosia here because I had a little leftover, so I just plugged it in here. Also behind there is a snowball viburnum that the deer keep eating. Every year, so I never actually get to see any snowball flowers on it. I'm just hoping that it can get tall enough where they can't reach it, and then because I'm trying to have it be a tree form. So once it gets tall enough and I have it limbed up, they won't be able to reach the blooms and stuff. But now every spring they just come and eat everything off of it. I'm just hoping they don't kill it. That's all I can do. More gladiolas were planted here. And then these nut trees are doing well. The salvia are reblooming again. All these salvias here that I cut back, and butterfly bushes are blooming. As you can see, there's a little puckster there. There is a shrub in the back. I can't think of the name of it, but it puts out beautiful pinkish flowers as well. And as you can see, the bees like that too because they're all over it. But I've been moving a lot of the lilies up here in this front row because they seem to do well. I don't really seem to have to water them or do anything with them. And in that new section, I've been moving a lot of them over there too. And you can see these two hydrangeas better here. These are Oakleys. A Gatsby's again, Gatsby Gal, I believe, and Gatsby Pink. This one has been blooming quite a bit, and I assume this is the Gatsby Pink because the blooms are very pink, but they're also getting papery because it's been so hot. They're like burnt at the same time. There's fungal issues because of so much leafage, and it's so humid here. And then there's, then there was a period of a lot of rain and then it got really hot, but it was so humid, and it's still humid, but it's cooled off a little bit. So we do deal with a lot of fungal issues in this area in West Michigan, for sure. So that's always something to think about. What else is going on over here? Here's where I planted all those new roses, the orange ones at last, and then a privet. So that'll be pretty once they get big. And then I moved that other 9-bark. That's a Proven Winners. I can't think of the variety, but it's a Proven Winners 9-bark, and it was on the other side, but it was never getting enough sun. So since I moved it here a couple of months ago, it's grown. It's like grown by at least 30%. So I'm very happy with that. This is another one of the shrubs that's on the other side that flowers that pollinators love. There's another puckster butterfly bush. I did lose a tree. So I showed you before, here in the spot where you see that stone sitting, that square. That's a memorial. No, actually that was an apricot tree, the only apricot tree I had. This one is a nectocot, which is supposed to be a cross between an apricot and a nectarine. So I had an apricot tree here that just died, and it was pushing up new growth from the base. So I was thinking maybe I'll let that save one of those stems and turn that into a new tree. But then it got scale on the trunk that was left, and I was like, I just don't even want to mess with that, because the scale stuff, I looked it up and it can be easily transmitted to other plants. So I went and got my chainsaw and I worked on it for an hour. I could have dug it all out, but it would have taken another hour, and it was hot that day. So what I did was I cut it down underground level. You know, I dug all around it, chopped it down as low as I could reach down in the hole. I broke a lot of the roots with my shovel and pruners, and then I filled the hole back in with dirt, and then I put that stone there just to know not to dig there and not to try to plant anything there. But I don't think I will buy any more apricot trees. I've tried it, it hasn't worked for me. They never flowered. They never gave me any fruit. This nectocot, I am hoping, because I do have nectarine and peach trees, that they can cross-pollinate it. I'm hoping. Or if not, that one may either just stay ornamental, or if it decides it wants to die like the other one or develop some disease, I may have to take that one out too. But I will not replace them with trees. I have a few fruit trees coming in the fall, but that's it for me and fruit trees. I will not be buying anymore. I have 30 some fruit and nut trees. So on a small lot, my whole lot with the house and everything is a half an acre, a little bit under half an acre. So I pack it in. I pack these things in. All my trees I keep dwarf size, but I just don't need anymore. And it again is a lot of work pruning trees, and they have to be pruned several times a year because they are dwarf trees. Pruning them, spraying regimens, spray programs, worrying about diseases and fungal infections and all of that, and still not even getting much fruit off of any of them yet. It's a lot of work, so I'm not gonna add beyond that. Okay, so over here, what I put in the place of this tree is a Proven Winners honeysuckle. I think it's called Sensational Honeysuckle. It's the same one that I have in the backyard. You can see it right there. It's the same one I have in the backyard that's growing by the shed. But I thought it would be really pretty here because it has beautiful yellow flowers and it smells so good and it grows really well for me. And what I decided to do, I saw this online somewhere. I got a dress form, and actually I got two of them. One's in the backyard. This is a wire dress form that I got off of eBay. It was inexpensive, and I am using that as a cage for the vine to grow up. And my idea is that as it gets bigger, probably not this year because we're almost done with the season, but it will weave itself in there and then flower, and you know, I'll keep it trimmed, but it'll just be like a little artsy statement piece. I think it'll be cool. I like it. Anyway, that's what's going on over here. Now let's get back to it. These are all zinnias here that I just planted from seed. At least they don't have powdery mildew yet. It's so hot in the front, gets direct sun, so full sun, and so zinnias like full sun. They like it dry and hot. And then back here, this is looking messy again because I started digging up stuff. Okay, so I've been gathering up lilacs. As I told you before, my goal was to plant all these lilacs in between the fruit trees to bring all this together into a garden bed and to get rid of this grass in between the fruit trees eventually. And I have to do it little by little because it's a lot of physical work to remove grass with a shovel. So as I've been getting the lilacs, I've been removing the grass. So I got a new one that I planted there, and then there are two here, and then there are two here. And so I just come in and weed whack where there's still grass in these little areas. But the idea, let me see if I can stand back. The idea here, is where you see these trees. There's two rows of two. There's not 2 rows of 2. There's 4 rows of 2, I should say. So, in between each of the 2, I plant a shrub. That one doesn't have a shrub yet, but these do. And then, so there's a shrub in between those. There's a shrub in between those. There's a shrub in between the front 2. And then in between the sets of 2 is where I'm gonna put all the lilacs. Now, I say all of the, these get big. They get like 6-8 feet. They're not, you know, so they're gonna fill in. I think I really only need 2 per quadrant or square, or whatever you want to call it, rectangle. But I probably could get away with 4 per rectangle if I want. The idea though is for me to make this tree line where my fruit trees are part of that bigger garden bed. The less grass I have to deal with, the better. So that's my goal. Now that'll take me a couple of years to accomplish, because obviously the lilacs have to reach full size and all of that, but I'll do it over the next couple of years. And then just quickly over here, my Arctic willows are still alive. The butterfly bushes are still alive, and they're getting tall, so I am happy about that, even though this is pretty much full shade all day. And these butterfly bushes actually like sun, but they're growing, and I'm not complaining, because the whole point of this was just to have a little screen for the base of the house, so you don't see the concrete and all of that stuff. Also a little privacy. That window is in my basement, and that's actually where my workout room and sewing room is. And I like being able to have a little light there, but it looks right at the neighbor's house, and so it is a little bit of a privacy screen too. And like I said, that's really poor soil. And then I have these 2 smoke bushes, or fire bushes, or burning bushes, or whatever you want to call them. These things that turn bright red that have been here since I bought the house. I need to get my chainsaw in the fall, and I'm going to cut those down close to the ground. I don't like them, but I can't get them out. They're too massive. At least not on my own. I couldn't get them out. And they're prone to things, like they get aphids every season, it seems like, and I don't really want to deal with them, but they're there. So what I do is I just cut them all the way down, and they just keep growing back. They won't go away. All right, over here my forsythia is doing well. This Rose of Sharon is in bloom, the blue one. Let me show you that, which it is beautiful, and it's pretty new, so it's still kind of a baby, but it has beautiful blooms, and that'll be really pretty once it gets big. And then in addition to that beautiful 9-bark there. Oh, hopefully the sun isn't too much. Hopefully you can see. But yeah, that's what I got going on over here. This side is kind of part shade, but it is getting more sun now that that maple tree is gone. This is a big lace cap hydrangea. I think it's called a lace cap. I'm not sure which variety it is, but all I know is the pollinators love that, which I was surprised, because the flowers are very tiny on it. They don't even look like flowers really, but the bees were all over that when it was in bloom, and it's huge now. So that one's doing well. There are a few hostas over here, a few heucheras that like a little bit of shade. These light ones usually light things like a lot of sun, from what I found, in terms of maintain this chartreusey color, but not those coral bell things or heucheras. They burn easily. That's why I have them kind of tucked in over there. But just showing you this side, you know, it just looks like a mass of stuff from this side. There are some other things that bloom over here that I've cut back. There are salvias over here, and catnip or nepeta and stuff like that. Decorative oregano. A lot of stuff that the pollinators like. Now I'm gonna go to the other side of the driveway, and that's the last side. And then I can wrap this whole thing up. I feel like I've been talking for a couple hours. All right. I also have a number of peonies planted up in the front. Peony season is over, but those come up in the spring, which is pretty nice. Here's another one of these like hyssop anise things or whatever that I planted. I probably planted this from seed too. It's huge, but there are bees all over that, and I'm pulling that one out. It's just too massive for that spot. Even though when this side was pretty empty, when I first dug it up and put everything here, it looked empty. And so that was great then, because it took up a lot of space. So I was looking at things that would grow fast and take up a lot of space. But now that it's filling in, I don't like the look of it. I like the color. It matches my my vibe I had going over here with cottage garden, but I just don't like the look of it. So I'll be pulling that out. Between this golden smoke bush, which gets big, and this dappled willow, which gets big, there will be enough, I think, anchoring this side. And then also I have these 3 little arborvitae that eventually will get several feet tall, that are hidden in here. But even the one that was looking half dead at the beginning of the season has finally got some growth on it. But there are 3 of them in a row here, so they will be pretty tall, so that will anchor the side. I did plant several roses up here, as I mentioned last time, and they're doing well. Actually, some of them are blooming, and I literally just planted these a month or so or 2 ago. But these are proven winners roses. There's a crema series. So they have one that's a kind of off-white color and one that's a pink. And so that's what I have here. I have 6 different ones. This is a Weigela that's done blooming. That blooms in the early spring. This pretty pink flowers. It looks horrible though in the winter because it defoliates and everything, but I do like the variegation on that. The leaves are variegated. I've cut back all the Shasta daisies because they were bloomed out. They might bloom again before the end. I don't know. We'll have to see. There's a beautiful hydrangea there. That's the first editions, and I don't know if that's Strawberry Sunday or vanilla something. Let me see. Vanilla strawberry. So I have several of their hydrangeas. This vanilla strawberry, I think I got a couple of those. I got a berry white, and they have one more that has a similar name that I have. And so far, you know, I don't have any complaints about them. They're not full size yet, but they're doing pretty good. Smoke bush here is doing well. My white twist red bud is doing well. I removed here. There was all of this sea holly that I told you I didn't like, and the pollinators were all over that stuff. They love that stuff, but I dug that out. I just do not like it. I do not want it, and so that is gone. And then in this spot, I'll probably put some bulbs because I have bulbs coming. So bulbs that will bloom in the spring. But here's my row of my little hedge. It's all hydrangeas. These are limelight primes. There are pockets of gladiolas, which have come back from last year, and then boxwoods. So they're finally getting some height. These little hydrangeas, the boxwoods are still small. But the boxwoods that I chose for this hedge are supposed to be Christmas tree shaped. So they should have a pyramidal shape, which I thought would be a nice contrast to the hydrangeas, which are usually like kind of a big mound or a big round kind of dome. And then there are a lot of roses in here. Mostly, well, not all of them. Most of them are proven winners now, the roses that I have. And then this is a lot of stuff that blooms in the spring. Daffodils, a ton of daffodils are over here, and bleeding hearts and stuff like that. That's a viburnum, this big thing here. It's all done blooming. And then another one of those golden smoke bushes. Now let me go here on the other side of this little strip. The roses, proven winners roses, I tell you. They do have some beautiful roses. Look at that. Now, these are one of the edible ones. I have 4 that are from their like edible series that are bred to taste better. And I do, as I said before many times, I use them to decorate cakes and stuff. I don't stake my gladiolas. I know some people do. I don't. They usually stay upright, and then once they start leaning like this, I just cut it off. So I'll come out here and just cut that stalk off, and it's done. And usually it doesn't flop until it's almost done blooming out, so it works for me. But I'm not gonna stake them. That's just too much going on in this small spot to have stakes and cages and all that over here. So I planted a bunch of zinnias in here to try to fill in some of the empty space, because this side is, as I said, I have a lot of weeds. They keep popping up. It's this side is high maintenance right now. This is not a proven winners, I don't think. I think it's a different variety, maybe a no name, but it is another conifer that takes on this golden hue, which is beautiful, and it should get taller. Now I do have another conifer that's a beautiful tree, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's a pine that has like the new growth of the needles is white, and it's still very tiny, but it's alive. It's in there. You can't see it now because of the hydrangeas, but those hydrangeas will, all the heads will be gone in winter, and then you'll be able to see it. But that'll be really pretty there. Now this is what I'm talking about, this ground cover mess. This is a mess, and so this is where I'm probably going to put that ajuga, or at least part of it. You know, I don't have enough ajuga to cover all of this area, but I'm going to try to replace some of this ground cover with it. And then I got these tiny quick fires. There are 2 of those. That's a new one for me. I just planted that last year, I think. So that'll be 2 nice little bulbs of hydrangeas. I cut back all the lavender because it was bloomed out and falling over. Pollinators love that stuff. I can't figure out where I got that lavender or what name brand it is, because I want to buy more because it's so easy to grow. I didn't have to do anything to it. It flowered prolifically. It smelled wonderfully, and I'd like to be able to cut and dry some lavender because again, that's something I could use in a dry flower wreath, and I want to plant some in the back. So I'm going to try to go through my files and see if I saved the receipt or something, but I cannot find it. And I have 4 of them here. And that's all that's going on over here. There are various little rose bushes. I did get a lot of roses from Jackson and Perkins, especially when they had their clearance sale, and a couple of them have died. Most of them survive, but they're just very small, and a lot of them I've cut back too, because again, roses are a thing for me that gets like fungal issues easily, even though I put them over here in this full sun area thinking that would be fine for them, but they got some kind of fungal issues, spots on the leaves, some kind of spot thing going on. And when I see that on something that usually dies back to the ground in the winter anyway, for me here, my roses usually die kind of back to the ground every winter so far. So when I see that, I usually just cut it off and get rid of it. I'm not trying to leave it there and treat it. I don't want it to spread to other things, so I usually just cut it back, and that's what I've done. So this section is still a work in process, just because it's still a process to get all the weeds out, to get these things to a mature enough size where it looks full like that other, like the other side. You know, the other side looked like this when I started. Everything was tiny. There was big open spots. But once this stuff reaches mature height, like that hedge of hydrangeas, that hydrangea, because that's the one I have along my fence line in the backyard, will get at least 6 feet tall, at least, because one of the ones in the backyard is taller than the fence now, and I have a 6-foot privacy fence, so it's like 7 feet. So when that gets, those get that tall, it'll be like a wall, which is nice, because I'm trying to create like a private space, you know, in a subdivision. So I'm trying to create this privacy, these screens, where I can't really see the neighbors' houses or the neighbors that well. And I think that hedge, when that fills in, it'll be beautiful, like this wall of you know, they're just beautiful hydrangeas. I do love hydrangeas. And there's the other one of those burning bushes or whatever that thing is, and that I need to cut down. Sedum has filled in this whole rock garden section. I love it. Matter of fact, I was thinking of this little yellow sedum. I don't even know what kind it is, but I was thinking if I could get that and use that as a ground cover, because I hardly, and it may be because it's rocks, but I hardly have to weed in this section at all. I mean, this stuff just seems to fill in and keeps the weeds at bay. But like I said, also probably because it's just rocks under there. There's not a lot of dirt. But I would even be happy with having that little short sedum in my walkways for a ground cover, because at this point I'm looking for what's going to be the least amount of maintenance for me as my garden matures and as I get older. That's kind of that's how I plant now. I think about low maintenance stuff that will flower and be beautiful and full, but still be low maintenance. That's my number one goal now. All right, so, oh my gosh, I've talked and talked and talked, and that's all I have for the front garden tour. So the next time I do a front garden tour probably won't be until the beginning of September, and by then most of the stuff will be gone. Or, you know, most of it will be done flowering. The only thing that probably will be still doing its thing are the hydrangeas, which tend to flower, later into the season, and then the mums will be coming. But I'm sure it'll look a lot different out here in a month than it does now. So I'm glad I was able to capture this on video because it is still beautiful. I think last month was probably the peak, I would say, of all the flowering kinds of things. But this month is like the peak of the maturity, like the size for the season that it's gonna get. And so I've been very happy with the garden this season. I'm gonna do a separate video on the backyard, which obviously, like I said before, is my working garden, so it doesn't have the same beauty. It doesn't have all of as much flowering stuff. It's more in rows and kind of like a farm. But I still am going to do a tour of that because I haven't done many at the back. And also I'm buttoning that up for the season. And I want to show you my new plan because I have been working the hardest back there to get it switched over to perennials. So that's where I've been planting, and the things that I bought this season have mostly been stuff to put back there. And so I'm gonna do a tour of the back. So I'm gonna do a tour of the back probably within the next week and put that up. And so yeah, you can see my future plans for the back garden as well. And that is it for today. I'm sorry I rambled on a bit long, but I will try to trim this down a little bit. So until next time, bye bye.